we prepared a PowerPoint, which I understand was not sent to the council until this morning. I certainly don't want to read it to you, but I would urge everyone to take a look at it. It lists some of the reasons why we did what we did. I want to start by telling the council that we studied this issue for more than a year. It was not something that we did lightly or precipitately. It was not targeted at the current sheriff or any sheriff. It was the view of 21 of the 23 members of the commission that this structural change should be made. And I've heard a lot of public comments about a power grab by Seattle. I don't live in Seattle. Mr. Williams doesn't live in Seattle. There were commission members from Seattle and there were commission members from outside Seattle. The first concern that we have, and none of the proposed amendments seems to address it. And let me just say the commission did not study these proposed amendments, so I can't speak for the commission about those amendments. But the first concern that we had is that we believe that changing the sheriff to an appointed position is in this case actually more democratic than what we are doing now. The reason is that the percentage of the county population that is in unincorporated King County and must be policed by the sheriff is 11%. So the voters of unincorporated King County, when it comes to choosing their sheriff, are outnumbered by a factor of 9 to 1. Even if you include the people who are being policed by the sheriff voluntarily through the cities that have contracted with King County for police services, it still only represents 25% of the population. 3/4 of the voters in King County are not being policed by the sheriff. And under the current system, those folks have the ability to impose whomever they want to be sheriff upon the people whom the sheriff actually polices. We don't think that's democratic. On the other hand, 7 of the 9 council members have at least some unincorporated King County in their districts. So we believe that the input of the council on who gets to be sheriff would be more democratic and would enhance the input that the unincorporated areas have. A lot of our PowerPoint shows graphs and lists of populations that illustrate that point.
David, this is Ken Williams.
Oh, you're back.
Hopefully the chair can hear me. Yes, I've been listening to you, and thank you for filling in on that first part for me. One of the things that I wanted to point out is that yesterday there was a town hall, and during the town hall, Councilmember Lambert had expressed some questions and concerns regarding qualifications. Right now, you don't have the ability to determine the qualifications of the sheriff by those members of the county council that represent the unincorporated areas would be able to weigh in, at least we envision them weighing in during the proposal, much like you did, or is appointed, reflects the values and qualities of the sheriff that you want, who's going to be also primarily policing the unincorporated areas. We think that that's an important factor. The other question, because it does allow you a little bit more oversight in the situation. Councilmember Balducci basically summarized this was sort of ultimately a choice between who actually sets policy for policing. Is it going to be the executive and the county council, or is it going to be the sheriff at that point? I think part of what we were hearing in the comments yesterday as well as the comments today is that there is a small disconnect in the electorate in the county believing that they are the only ones that vote on the sheriff, when the reality is, as Mr. Heller stated, was that the largest voting blocks in the county come from cities who do not have their primary policing as far as the sheriff goes. And thank you for letting me interject, David.
Oh, sure. Do you want to go on, or do you want me to resume?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. Why don't you go ahead and resume?
All right.
I'll let you take the lead.
Okay, thank you. The second issue that concerned us was flexibility. And as Mr. Williams pointed out, he did the part of the PowerPoint that has a picture of Russell Wilson. It's not a great idea to limit your candidate pool. And someone pointed out that there are 3 million people living in, or almost 3 million people living in the Puget Sound area.
Mr. Heller?
Yes. Mr. Williams likes football. I like baseball, and I see that almost everything in life ultimately comes down to baseball. Someone pointed out that we have millions of people who live in the Puget Sound area. Surely we have a big candidate pool here. But as Bill James, the guru of baseball statistics and sabermetrics, pointed out many years ago, the population of Kansas City is approximately the same as the population of London in the 1600s. But Kansas City has not produced even one William Shakespeare in all the years. So the fact that there's a lot of people here doesn't necessarily mean that the right person is available. And again, it may be that the current sheriff is the right person, but if at some point the council and the executive believe that there needs to be a change in who is the sheriff, why would we restrict ourselves to someone who's already in the office? And since we acquired an elected sheriff in 1996, no one has been elected to the office who did not come out of that office. Sometimes you want to promote from within, but sometimes when you want to change a culture, you need to bring someone in from the outside. That's really not an option that's available under the current system. And connected with that, one of our concerns was the election process and the divisiveness that it can cause sometimes, where you have a competing, either an insurgent candidate, or if the office is open and you have two candidates running for the open office. And something that, it's in the PowerPoint, it just came out, so we stuck it in right at the end of the bottom of a page where it's kind of squeezed in. There was a situation in Missouri where the sheriff was gone and there were two people running, one who was a deputy and one who was not a deputy. And the one who was a deputy told the other deputies, if you don't support me, you will lose your jobs. And this person won the election, fired the deputies who hadn't supported him, and the deputies who hadn't supported him sued. And the Eighth Circuit Court of Appeals, the federal court in the Midwest, just came out with a ruling that the sheriff could not be sued for suing the deputies, even though he had blatantly told them that they would be fired if they didn't support him. And I found that kind of shocking, but at least that's the law in the Midwest now. I'm not, again, suggesting that anyone who is or has been sheriff would do such a thing, but I found it worrisome and troubling. With respect to the current situation, we came out with our recommendations a year ago, or last year rather, before either viruses or the current protest wave had occurred. But we were concerned about biased policing and use of force in all police departments. There's certainly been a lot of publicity about the Seattle Police Department, but I don't believe that any police department can be assumed to be immune from those problems. And